Okay, my friends, before we get started, I want to just show you that I do have right here on my property a hair follicle from a giant that would be approximately a mile tall, and the tendons as well. And these tendons are the same kind of tendons as Baalbek. And I have small ones here that are tendons, so they're identical to Baalbek, only like this, only they're very small. In a microscope, here it is right here. That's the same one, and they come right up there, and this is all biological. These are tendons against glue. Now let's just go through the hair follicle just to prove, without a doubt, this is real. This is no question whatsoever. What I'm showing you is what I am claiming it to be. Now, if you can dispute it after watching, that's what I'd like you to do. So let's get started. Okay, how big were giants? Well, some were very, very big. I have some that are sort of medium size. This is a hair follicle. It's a hair follicle. Now, it's 2 inches wide. All right, 2 inches wide. An average diameter of a hair follicle is 51 thousandths of a meter. All right, so it's 83 this way and 51 this way. Well, how much is 51 thousandths of a meter? Well, in inches, it boils down to 2 thousandths of an inch, 0.002. So 51 micrometers equals 0.002 in inches, 2 thousandths of an inch. So this is 2 inches wide. All right, it's actually 1.94 inches wide. Let's just round it off to 2 because it's eroded a little bit. Let me just show you the anatomical features, undeniable. And I am going to do a Catalase test on this. All right, we're going to be looking at this in a microscope in a minute, but just this is where the muscle attaches to the root ball, the follicle, and it attaches right there. All right, and that makes your hair be able to do this. Now that is the sebaceous gland. You see it right there? And that oils up the hair shaft, which is right there. Now this is a flat-sided hair, and they tell me that's a curly-haired person. That's what I heard. Now, the hair shaft comes down and comes zip right up through there. So don't forget it. There's your muscle. There's your hair shaft. There's your sebaceous gland. And right there, that little dot and that little dot, those two are the hair papilla, which is the vein and the artery that supply this with nutrition. All right, so from there, it comes out, and the shaft comes straight up the middle. Muscle, sebaceous gland, vein and artery, shaft, 2 inches approximately wide. So that's 1,000 times bigger than us, approximately. I mean, go around 1,000. Let's just round it off. And that might be rounding a little high, but still. Let's just take a 5 foot tall person, or even 5 foot 2 inches or whatever. 1,000 times would make it a mile tall person, if it was human. And I bet you that could be tested, because I bet you if you drilled in there, there would actually still be some DNA. And my stuff was tested, and I drilled inside, but mine were not eroded like this. Mine still had actual blood. But I bet you if I put Catalase on right around there where that membrane is, we're going to get a Catalase reaction. I'd be very surprised if we don't, but I've been surprised before. But we're going to try to take a look at it. So this is from a 1,000 foot tall guy. I mean, from a mile tall guy, person. And this is one of his little tendon fibers. And I mean, they're little in us. Tiny, and it had blood in it, and And that blood is run down in this thing here. See the color here? And no color up there. I don't know if you can see that. I can. But it's dyed laying like this. And the tendons are blocks. And I'm going to show you all this stuff. This is exactly the same as at Baalbek. This is exactly the same thing. Okay, my friends, going to be exciting today, talking about Baalbek, another shocker du jour. Let's get right into it, because I have some information about this, their origins, how they were constructed, probably how they were moved. Let's get started. Okay, my friends, hold on to your hats, because these are biological. They're not just something they carved. Now, there's a whole batch of them. They say, oh, they carved them all. Well, no, they didn't. You see these little holes here? I can explain those. I can explain this here. I can explain these different colorations. And then you're going to see some other things that I will also explain. And I have specimens here to show you. I'm not just guessing. All right, so you can see there's just a batch of them here, and they say, oh, they hewn them, they cut them out, and then they moved them. No, they didn't. This right here is the Slurpee, it's called, which is the exterior membrane that surrounds this tendon. It's a tendon. You see that block right there? They're just laying there. They're taking them out of here. Now, then they had to move them. Now, how did they move them? That's the key. I believe there must have still been huge giant creatures here that were able to move these things, that had the ability to move these things. I can't see any other way, although there was equipment here on Earth, and I will show you the actual tracks. And they did cut slabs from these things. These were pliable. Let's put it that way, back in these early days after they all drowned. These are giant creatures, absolutely giant. They were drowned, they were soaked, then they started to dry out, and when they did dry out, they had them to a point where they were semi-dry, and they could work them. And they did, they worked them all over the earth. All right, so you saw the Baalbek stones. I have the same things here, only they're a little bit smaller, but they are literally exactly identical, and I will be able to show you where this coating here is the same as that coating there. You see this little slip here? That is the membrane that coats it. You see how it's a little wrinkly here? This thing didn't flatten out exactly perfect like these. These are kind of exceptional. Usually there's a little bit of a twist to them, but this just died perfectly flat. This one did pretty well as well, but there's a little twist to it, see? Most of them have some kind of a twist to them. These are the exceptions, but these are from giant creatures. I'm sorry, the Earth was completely covered with these things. Now, I have them here in my shop, but they're a little smaller. Again, here they are right here. That's exactly it. That's the Baalbek stones. Now, that's, of course, in my microscope. So it's very small, but these are those blocks. These are the tendons, and this is the Slurpee that's on top of them. This is literally glue. It glues these tendons into wherever they are supposed to be locked into, which in this case was a bone. And coming off of this bone, which is over here, is the glue, and then the tendon runs out to the muscle. I have all that stuff, and as a matter of fact, I'll show it to you right now. Where is it? Here it is right here. This is basically where I was, over in this area somewhere, where these tendons come up and they glue right in. They just glue in. And then there's a bone up here. Wait a minute, I think I got another shot of this showing the bone. Maybe not. Yeah, here it is. All right, so here's the tendon. And tendons are different than muscle. This is pinky stuff. You see pink? That's muscle. They attach to a tendon. The tendon attaches to the glue attaches to the bone. Whoops. And here it is right here. This is where the bone attachment is, and there's glue, and these are where the tendons come up. Of course, you need to see it in a microscope to be able to see it. They're kind of small in this particular case, but in Baalbek, a smidge difference. Now, you can easily see this is a bone. I mean, I can't see anybody saying that's not something. And then you can see the muscle, and you can see the tendon, and you can see the glue. And that ball right there is the attachment. Somehow it comes over and attaches to that bone, which is kind of interesting as too. Of course, the bone is up over here. I just wanted to see the muscle and tendon attachment in the picture. All right, so this is a block. That's just exactly like, well, it's exactly like this. And inside this, there's blood. There's a little tiny bit of blood. And if you can see it just right, you can see the shade coming down. The blood has run down this way. This died laying like this. That's why it's a little squirrely looking. But if I put some water on there, you'll see that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put this in a microscope, and you will see these little white flakes here? All of those little white flakes are mineralized stuff, tough and tougher. Now, on the outside though, this right here, that's the Slurpee, small leucine-rich proteins. And inside is the tendon itself. But they have to have a coating around them, they all do. So what's in the end here? All right, there's going to be, if it dried out the right way, there'll be little tiny holes in here, where the blood came to service this tendon, but not many, and they're not big. But they will be coming down into there, because all your tissue has to be serviced. So where do we see that? Right there. Right there. That's where the blood is coming up. These are blood here. That's artery blood, because there's red coming out of here. And they dug right into that. They chiseled into it. They chiseled into that, chiseled into that. And these are where there was little blood vessels. I have them in these too. And I'm going to show you in the microscope. You see that little hole right there? You say, what is that? Just a little scratch? No. There was blood coming out of there. And I'll show you the whole shooting match in the microscope, and you'll see it. It's not hard to understand once you understand. But if you don't understand, you're never going to understand. In order to understand, you got to pay attention. Okay, my friends, here's a bunch of kids who want to understand what life is really all about and understand the truth and everything. And here they are sitting on that Baalbek stone being told that this is, I don't know what they're telling them now in academia, but they're certainly not telling them that is biology, and we come from a history of giants that were in the earth and giants later when the sons of God went into the daughters of man. Two sets of giants. One of them were they were just almost make up the earth. And then the other set came next. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we are on the eve of deception. And we've been on the eve of deception for a very long time. And now it's time to get off of that eve and go into reality. And at the end of this video, I'm going to reference another channel's video who they're saying the same thing. We're just being defrauded now. And they did a very nice presentation. And they understand we're being defrauded. But they don't understand, I don't think, what this is really truly made of, which is body parts. All right, these are the Baalbek style stones, these blocks. A tendon comes out in a cord. It's like a round cord. And inside that cord are these square blocks first. And then from the square blocks, little bits and pieces of that come down and they make the hexagonal blocks. So you got round, then you got square, then you got hexagons, and then you got some that are sort of in the middle. And then you've got the fibrils at the end that are very, very tiny, and they're sort of all kind of different looking. And same thing here. But here they're hex, here they're square, here they're round. And it depends how they petrified. All right, so this is what tendons look like, and there's all different phases of them, and it depends on where you are. Because this is what they look like here. You see this? These ones here, these aren't the hex ones. They're not the perfect hex. They're probably this one or that one, or they could be the end ones. I don't know. But they're the very tiny fibrils. And you can see they come in the hexes or sort of, it probably was from this one to this one. You see, because you see the patterns of the bigger ones. And then you see the patterns of the smaller ones. So I don't know, it could have been from here to here, I don't know. But at the very end, there's a ball that anchors into the ground, or into the creature's body. And this is what they were. These fibers come out. They anchor into the bones usually. And then from the bone, it goes into the tendon, and from the tendon, it goes into the muscle. Okay, so that was the rope style, and then this just are the flat style, like the ones at Baalbek, the same ones I have here. And then you got all kinds of different tissue types. And but this is more or less tendon. This here, I believe, is what they call adipose tissue fatty. It's fat, basically. And there's a lot of blood in the fatty layers here so that you can extract that for energy. But these are a totally different story. Very, very little blood. Almost no blood. In between is the Slurpee, which I told you about. Now this is another style of tendon, which is the Achilles tendon. You have your Achilles heel, and then these are the tendon. Very, very, very tough. And there's some abrupt transitions in here. They just break flat off, and they all do. These are little tiny, tiny blocks. You never ever see them. But they can stretch just a smidge, and that's all, between these tight junctions. Now this is where it gets crazy, because that right there, I'm going to tell you right now, that's an Achilles tendon. And they were cutting slabs off of this and moving them down here to make those walls when this was moist, because they had equipment here that sunk into it, and they could cut these off and put them in these walls like putty and just let them gush down and fill in all the little cracks. They didn't even have to have putty. This was just soft when it was put in there, like clay, and it molded right in. All right, there's absolutely no question they had some kind of equipment here. I don't know, but I can see the tire treads, like tank treads here, and here, and here. You see it comes way out to here and way over to here. Now, it was obviously moist when it was put here. Now, how it got here, I don't know. Was it set down out of the sky? No clue. But I believe this was, they were hanging something over here, cutting and cutting and cutting and taking those in the back to make these walls. All right, there's really no easy way to do this. So what I'm going to do is, I've shown you that I have some things that are from giant creatures here, and I will go through them in a little more detail, but I think I'm just going to go through one shot at a time, these pictures, and explain what they mean. And as I showed you before, they had equipment here. How that thing got here, I don't know. It looks like it didn't drive here, although it might have driven, I don't know. I have no idea, but I think they were using it to cut slabs. And this is where the tendon glue is. So they were right at the end, and now they're into the muscly stuff, which is wet and like clay. And that's what they made some of these walls out of, was this stuff. And then they use other types of tendons as well, but tendons was the preferred material. Clay and the mud was not quite as good as the tendon, in my opinion. All right, this was a very good type of tendon. Then there's the aponeurosis tendon. Those are the ones that have the bumps on them. They say, well, what are these bumps for? Well, that's because that's where the tendon's attached. But this is absolutely flawlessly fabulous to make these walls out of. And here's how they cut them. This is an Achilles tendon right here. You see that? That just didn't happen by accident, somebody chiseling or something. They had some kind of really sophisticated equipment, and they used these blocks and brought them back here and made walls. And the reason you see this yellowish stuff growing here, that's growing on blood that was in here. These are mosses and lichen and so forth, and they grow different colors depending upon the type of blood that was in here. Sometimes they're all different colors. The yellow, I think, has to do with sulfur, I would believe. You see that's the tendon again. This is from the Achilles tendon, and these are fabulous walls back here. This stuff makes the best stuff. And these walls were of extreme high quality. And kids slide on these. I'm not kidding you, watch this. Kids are sliding on tendons. You see that? That's the Slurpee blood on the side. The tendons. They're all over the place down there. They're literally everywhere, but in certain places they're just more evident than others, and they use them as construction materials. Okay, like I said, there's really no easy way to do this, so I've shown you, I'm just going to bang through them again. I've shown you that I have the same thing here in microscopic as in Baalbek, which is the exact same thing. And I have blood coming out of the end of mine too, and I have the little nicks in them like that, which looks like they dug into there. I don't know why they would have done that, but those are where the arteries are. And this, I showed you my hair follicle. I'm sure I did that. I got a little lost here because I had to do a bunch of stuff. Now, this I didn't show you. This, originally there was tissue up to this height. All of that eroded away. And it left the ball and the strap. This is a ponerosis tendon. I'll show you in a second. Now, there was another one here that came down, probably not to this ball here, but there's balls all over. You see them all over? See them all over here? They're everywhere. Now, and there's one here too. Now that right there was a stalk. Just like that would have been, and it broke off. And they have a center core. Virtually everything that has a strap has a center core to it. And this just eroded and left this ball. Well, in us, that is microscopic. You want to see how microscopic it is? There it is right there. There's that ball. And there's that strap running up to the cliff face, which is here. The other one broke right off, so it doesn't have one. But this one's kept all the way down, and then all the other stuff eroded away and left the ball. See, that ball's pulled out of here. It's a little hard to explain, but the stuff eroded away where the ball was. And the tendon did too. But it left the strap from way up above coming down. Let's just look at it one more time. It's hard to explain, but the tendon mat would have been on here, and this would have gone through it. So the tendon mat must be gone as well as with the anchor where it anchored into. Because what that does is it pulls against the mat. So the mat is gone, and where it anchored into is gone, but the strap and the ball has remained in this particular case. And that would be, they're going to be very tough. The balls are the toughest they can be. And the strap is going to have to be tough as hell too. So this eroded away, and all the stuff that was underneath the ball eroded away as well, and left the strap up against the cliffside. So the lower stuff eroded away, but left one of the straps. That's the best I can do with that. All right, I'm sure I showed you the kids sliding on the tendon, the Achilles tendon here. The Achilles tendon with the steps cut into it, so extremely precise, it's just not an accident. They had some kind of equipment that knew how to do this. And then, well, just look at this again. Just think about this. Look at this. Zoop, zoop, zoop. And look at how absolutely flawless they are. Slicing down into this tendon. And that was a tendon. And then they built these walls down here. Fabulous walls. We know they had equipment here. I showed you the equipment and the tracks. Of that, there is no doubt. No doubt whatsoever. And this is where they took these things from. Now, let's go to the walls where they constructed them. Here's one of the walls. Now, let's look at this carefully. These are just plopped in here, and when they were wet. They were moist. And when they cut them up above there, I don't know if they cut them nice or how they did it, or somebody just hacked them out and brought them down here. But when they just stacked them one on top of the other and just pushed them into each other. All right, that's all this is. You slap it in there, take another one, push it up tight, and then push this one over here. And now, you see this one here? This is the key to understanding mud fossils and how they use them. And the same thing with that one. Normally you have good, clean tendon, which has no blemishes to speak of other than those bumps. This one, though, they got into the bone. All right, this is, I think this could be meat. It doesn't look like tendon to me. It looks like some kind of meat that was surrounding a bone. Now, why they would have used it here, I don't know. Maybe they were running out of materials, because look at this thing. That's just like like a rotten piece of meat. So I don't know what happened here, but this is the result, is this thing right here. That's the bone. That's where the bone was, in the center. So normally they had some really good places, and then they had places like this. Okay, I made the claim that that is where blood was normally fusing into this tendon, and that is also where red blood is running out, and these are little arterial little spots. Now, I have a tendon here in mine, and I'm looking right down into one of these little pockets like that, and I think we're going to be able to get a catalase test to come back positive. Now, I have to turn this light off. Now, up here is where, oops, right there is the tendon, and I got the microscope going. I can turn up the light a little bit, or I could turn it down a little bit. I think down is better. You get a little better contrast. All right, hold on. All right, just look at this cavity right there. That's a little where there was some blood passing into this. Now you see all this white stuff on the surface, you see fibers and all that. That's the Slurpee, and they do require a little bit of blood, and this is, I believe right there we should get a good catalase reaction. Let's check it out. Now what we're going to be looking at is this one right here, but this right here is where the membrane is, and you almost always get one at the membrane too. So we'll check them both, but let's start with this one. Okay, here we go. I'm going to move the scope out of the way and saturate that with H2O2. All right, and let's see what happens. That little hole should bubble up. I'm seeing it already. Look at it. You see it? That's catalase. That's a very strong catalase reaction right there. You see that? That's about as good as it gets. Now let me back it off. It looks like we can see that from a distance. Sometimes you got to get right down on top of it. Now you see how we're getting it bubbling here? This is where that main spot was, where that hole was. You see? I believe that's right where the blood vessel is right there. Let me clean that off a little bit. All right, now we can see down inside. I'm going to bring it down right to there. That's where it's bubbling. You don't see any really bubbling anywhere else. Oh, see it down there? That's where it's coming out. That's, like I told you, that's where the blood vessel is. Now I'm going to bring it right down on top of it, and you'll see it really pretty strong, I would imagine. Yep, there it is. That's it right there. Now you see a little twiggle here and there around the rest of them, but not like that. That's where the blood was entering into that little cavity there. See, the rest, you don't see any reaction out here. A little bit. You see a little here and there. There's blood here everywhere on this, but down here, that's where you're saturated with blood. See it? Bubbling out of there. All right, so that is the tendon. Now and that's one of these little, like one of these little things here, like these things. Now let's see hold on. Now I'm gonna look at that, and I can tell you right now, I'd be shocked if I'm not correct. Right on that line right there, we should see a really good reaction. All right, so let's see if that happens. I don't know if you could see me before. I think I was out of the phase there, but this is the spot I'm talking about, where this meets the Slurpee layer. All right, that's the outside sleeve that the tendon slides in. And normally you get a really good reaction right at that junction. Let's see. All right, so there's where the microscope is. Looking right at that crack. Now, here is the crack right up here. All right, now I'm going to move the microscope around a little bit so you can understand what's going on. Right now we're at the top surface. And I'm going to pan down. You see we're going down. This is the crack I'm talking about right there. That's the slide in between this layer and the tendon underneath. There we should get a very good catalase reaction, I would think. Let's find out. Okay, this is a pretty good shot right here. This is where the membrane, the tendon underneath slides above this, inside this membrane. So let's see if I can get some catalase in there and see if we can get a good reaction. Let's see what happens. Now, normally you get a really fuzzy good reaction right at the membrane. Look at it seep right in there. Look at how obvious that membrane is. Now we should get some bubbling out of there. Boy, it's sucking it up quick, huh? Should start bubbling any second now. I'm seeing some movements around here. We just got to keep our eye on it and let that soak in. But you see, you don't see anything going on over here or over here to speak of. But you're seeing like bubbling. That's that membrane area. What we should end up seeing is a real fuzzy edge there. Look at how biological that is. Hold on, let me take away a little more of the moisture. I'm not seeing what I expected. There's some activity there, but certainly I would have expected a lot more. Yeah, it's just not doing it. Not doing what I thought would happen. Although, I don't know, it looks like I may be starting to burp a little bit now. You see it burping every now and then? It maybe just has to work its way down in. Yeah, sometimes you got to give it a few minutes. There's definitely some action going on that membrane line there. But it's nothing like good solid blood. Blood would just be bubbling all over the place. So anyway, that's about the best we're going to get out of that. I don't think it's going to get too much better. All right, we just got a different area this time. Now let's go up here. This was more protected, this area. The other one broke off probably a long time ago, that flake. Now, this is the outside layer, and now we're inside where the tendon is, and there's a spot right there. Looks to me like that's going to have some biological action going on. Now let's get some catalase in there. I'm sorry, hydrogen peroxide, and see what does happen. All right, now you can see the different tissue. There's no question this is different than this. And normally there's a membrane in the midst of the two, and it foams up pretty good, because that's the membrane is where your catalase is, and it's within your blood too. It's really dense in blood, and it's also pretty dense in membranes. But boy, I'll tell you, I'm not really seeing anything here. I'm going to come right down on top of it. Oh yeah, there he goes. You got to get right down on top of it. These are just tiny little bubbles. I was just too far off. Now, this, again, this is where the tissue starts. You see out here, you're not seeing any bubbling out there. Very little. This is the outside edge. And then this is, you come in just a little bit, and you're into where that blood was. It's pretty obvious what's going on there. She's bubbling like crazy. All right, so there's still plenty of catalase in there. That's a very, very specific enzyme, so who knows what could be in there. Okay, I know you've seen the hair follicle, and that's what the hair follicle looks like anatomically. And what we're going to be looking at right there is where that muscle attaches. Now, not only will the muscle attach, but there has to be some blood. There's got to be blood going in there. So there's going to be blood supply, and then there's going to be the muscle attachment. Now let's look at that, because it's up here in a microscope. All right, I have to have the lights off, but there it is up in a microscope. Now, what we're looking at right there is where the muscle invests right into the hair follicle. So what do we see? I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be, this is where blood is coming in. That is the muscle attachment. That's the core. And that's where it just locks itself in. Now, we should be able to get a good catalase reaction. I'm sure. I'd be real surprised if we don't, off of these little spots over here. And don't forget, this is a 2-inch wide hair follicle. Now I'm going to come right down on top of it, because like I say, you got to get up pretty close, but I think this is going to give a really good catalase reaction. All right, let's see what we get there. Turn this down just a smidge. Focus this in. I can guarantee you we're going to see some catalase reaction there. All right. That's about as good as I'm going to get. All right, here goes. That thing was really transitioned, so it may not do anything. I really don't know, to be honest. But I can see it doing it right there. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not. Yeah, I see some there. You see that bubble in there? That's typical of a membrane. That's the way they do it. They're real fuzzy. See how fuzzy that is? It's as close as I can get. But you can see it doing it. That's the membrane. Now let me find a better membrane. Hold on. I'm going to find a real tight one right in the center because that'll be the most protected. All right, try again. This is the center core right here. And I would suspect there's got to be some biology going on there that we might be able to detect, but again, I have been wrong. Let's see if we can see any here. All right, let's observe. I think there's some right there. Yes, I can see that is right there. Let me get a little closer. Boy, not a lot. This is two transitions. It is absolutely a hair follicle. It just doesn't have any enzymes left to it. It's completely invaded. That's kind of unusual. It's actually very unusual. Wherever there's blood vessels, it seems to remain. I am seeing tiny little bits. I just can't get close enough to make it obvious, but I can see them. Maybe you can, I don't know. You see the little, you see it boil in there? That's about as good as we're going to get. You got to get into a spot where there's actually blood coming out. I can see that pretty good. It gets a little blurry, but yep, that's quite obvious. Yeah, that's boiling. Just took a little while to get started because you know you get layers of like scale over the top of everything, and then the catalase finally gets hit as it gets through that scale. But that's quite obvious what's going on there, and that is the central core of that tendon. So that's pretty interesting. It's still got a catalase. All right, that's the Baalbek stones, and that's at the ends of them they have blood coming out, just as mine does here too. Same thing. I have the same, it's virtually identical, only it's smaller. Now, right there is the same as what we're looking at below. Now you see that? That's where blood was going to come out of there. All right, if it was bigger, you'd just see big holes in here, just like you do down here at the one on the bottom. It'd be the same thing. Same stuff, my friends. All right, it's 100% certain they were working these stones. And as far as I'm concerned, they were working them when they were moist and chiseling into them and doing all that stuff. And Petra was made from muscle. Petra itself is made from muscle. And actually, it's an artery in the middle of a batch of muscle. Oh, I remember I showed you this one with the tendon ball coming over. This is the same thing here. Basically, same sort of situation. It's just beyond anybody's capability to think. This is nothing more than tendon or muscle fibers. I think it's tendon. And there's a little bit of blood running through here, but not much, just enough to keep it supported alive. And the guy's washing it down. They're going to make slabs or something out of it. And these are the kind of walls that were the good stuff. This is the tendon. This is a ponerosis tendon. That's the flat sheets of tendon. These are the balls where the balls and straps attach. And they just break them right off. And they had a test wall, it looks like to me. You see this? This looks like a test wall. You see that one there is broken right off? You can see that's quite obvious. You see the little thing in the center there? They all have a little strap coming, you know, they have the fascia around the outside of it, like a cord, but they always have a central spot like that. Now, all of this squares and everything, this is natural. That's just naturally a ponerosis tendon. It can give a little bit in these squares. All right, and it looks to me like they were testing all different ways of treating these walls. All right, I got to show you something. This is Ayers Rock, Uluru, whatever you want to call it. This is cardiac muscle, because it is a heart. There's zero question about that. This is the cardiac muscle, and it's very, very obvious. And this is what cardiac muscle looks like. And it erodes, and you get that. And now, so I'm showing that. And hold on one second. All right, now check this out. This is Uluru in Australia, Ayers Rock, which is a gigantic, it's a heart. And this is cardiac muscle, and this is what had happened after it eroded away, the outer muscle. You can see the inner cardiac muscle, which is right here. Same stuff. Now, so I'm talking about the water that runs down from these little spots. And I said, water doesn't necessarily have to rain up here to come running down. It comes up through these holes. You see these holes here? And I believe this was a vein, and these are little valves, vein valves, so that the blood can't go backwards. But I do believe the water comes up through there when it's get real wet. Now, it'll run off if it rains a lot, but it doesn't rain there very much. But water does come out of here. So now, I'm saying that the water pressure coming up from the ground causes the water to flow. Sometimes it flows pretty good. Now, what about this? Why is that water running off of there? It's running off of here, off of here, off of here, off of here. Well, I can tell you what. That, my friends, is muscle tissue of some sort. Something biological. It's some sort of layers of tissue. Let's just go with that. The layers of tissue. Whether that, I would say it's muscle. And these are where arteries were. I mean, look at the pattern here. Look at the pattern. That's not an accident. And they have to have blood feeding them, and the water pressure in the ground is enough to cause these flows. It's not raining up there running off. And the same thing with this one here. Look at that. Just pouring out of the blood vessels. This is not just rock. It has nothing to do with biology. This is all biology. And that, my friends, apparently was where the main water supply was. I mean, blood supply. And now it's just gushing water out of here. It doesn't look like there's any big bowl of water up there trying to drain down. That looks like it's coming up from the ground. That's my take. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. You see that? I don't see any way that is a bunch of water up there coming here. It's not going uphill from behind here. It's just coming out of the wall. It looks like to me. All right, check this out. This is nothing more than tendon, or it's muscle and tendon together. It's connective tissue. And this is a guy's four-wheeler down here. Now there's a little blood in this area, but primarily it's muscle and connective tissue. You see how the white stuff is the strappy stuff. This stuff erodes away. The bloody sort of stuff erodes away. But the white is the tough stuff. That very rarely erodes away. You see how the black and the red erodes away. That's the bloody tissue. Okay, so beyond shocker du jour, don't forget, this is nothing more than a piece of muscle. And guess what this is? Nothing more than a piece of tendon. That's a tendon. And that's what's sticking up here. It's been broken off here because there was a bone back here, and up here was a muscle, and that's eroded away. This is not millions of years in one picture. This is a day or so the thing died. Now, I have the same thing here in my shop. Well, what I just showed you was a bone from here back eroded away, and from here forward eroded away, because that's muscle. This is a tendon. Tendon is just a killer, tough. And from right here, this whole line straight down is what we saw in the ocean. That ball I will show you in a second. And that ball is right there. Right there in that bone. The bone's gone, and the muscle, this pink stuff, it erodes away. It's cheap. This is tough. So that is just was in the ocean. This went away. The bone erodes. Bones didn't do too well when they were outside of the body. Inside the body, they were just turned to stone like everything else. So what we're looking at here is not millions of years. There's that ball that I showed you, which attached to a bone. A bone would have been right here. All right, and the gluey stuff was here. It glues to the bone. Up here starts the abrupt transition towards into the muscle. This is tough. Remember the little central core there and that ball. It's identical. There's no difference whatsoever. There's that central core and there's the ball. This is the tough spot. Right in the middle, and there's that ball right here that anchors up to the bone. If anybody can dispute what I'm saying, I'd like to have them dispute it. Now, I can't remember if I showed you this or not, but this was Ayers Rock, and this is from a distance, and that's the cardiac muscle, which is just what this is. Only that's eroded away, the surface, and that you can see inside where the cardiac erosion has happened as well, but that's the muscle. And now I was talking to some people, and I'm saying I think the water comes up through these holes when the water pressure is high in the ground, and it's not always just runoff. And they say, "Oh no, you're crazy! So it just runs off." I said, "I don't know. Maybe not." But I see this here too. You see this? Where's that water coming from? Where's that water coming from? I don't see any big hill up there or a big reservoir up there running down. It looks like it's running that way. I think it's being pumped up and coming out through, because this is absolutely 100% muscle tissue. And this, it's got to be fed with a lot of blood. If it's muscle, you're going to get a lot of blood. And I'll show you another place where there's a lot of muscle and a lot of water running out, where I say where there was blood. And that's right here. Look at the size of this baby. That's Mount Roraima, I think they pronounce it something like that. Look at the way it's formed here. That's just not an accident like a hill or something. Look at all these blocks. You see those blocks? And look at where the water's running out. Here, and here, and over here, and over here. It's running all out through arteries. All right? And the veins don't do that. The veins have valves and they plug up. The arteries are wide open and they run through. And this is all muscle, which requires a lot of blood. I'm just telling you that's the way the world was and is. So don't forget, that's the hair follicle, and that sucker is 2 inches wide approximately, and the width of normal hair follicle is around 51 micrometers. Very, very small. It's about 2/1000ths of an inch. So this would be, at 2 inches, it'd be 1,000 times bigger than an average human. So you're a little over 5,000 feet. That's about a mile. And then, of course, I have the tendon to go along with it. And I imagine this tendon came from this same guy, but I don't know. I got so much stuff here, it's just amazing. All right, some more shocker du jour. These are muscle sarcomeres. They have these blocks, and then these fibers have some red stuff on one side and mostly connective tissue on the other. And when they pull in together, they shorten up. This is a contracted muscle. This is a relaxed muscle. But these places will erode more quickly, and the red stuff will erode more quickly than the connective tissue, the white stuff. Now, these are sarcomeres, and here's what sarcomeres look like in rocks. Those are sarcomeres. All right, remember, you see the little bunches? So they have like the red spot and then the white spot, and they pull together, and between all of them pulling together, you can really shorten that thing up. Now, all of this red stuff is blood to service the muscle. All right, they need a lot of blood. That's why there's a lot of blood running through here to power that muscle. So don't forget what you're looking at. All right, don't forget. All right, I'm going to tell you right now, that's muscle. That is muscle sarcomeres. And they would pull together, and that is an artery. And they just carved into it like it was putty. And they put these little holes in to let it dry out. This was wet when they did this. All right, and these are sarcomeres. All right, and this is what it looks like inside that treasury. This is nothing more than biology that's more or less dried. That's where the blood comes up through, just like I showed you on the Baalbek stones. They all have little blood vessels in them, and this is connective tissue, and that's inside. Now here's the long shot. Here it is. There's Petra right there. This was an artery, this was an artery, this is an artery, and this was the main feeder that fed all of those. And this, my friends, is muscle sarcomeres. This is all muscle. All right, if you could get down there close and see. Those are all bands of muscle sarcomeres. The whole thing. All right, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It is what it is. And in order for us to understand anything, you got to start to be able to open your eyes and not close your mind to what you can actually see. If I didn't have the material evidence, I would never, ever in a billion years come up with this conclusion. And now I can never in a billion years not come up with it, because it's just true. It is what it is. And until you can see what things are and accept them for what they are, even though they are spectacular beyond belief, then you're living in a fantasy world, my friends. And that's where we have been forced, is into a fantasy world. All right, all I can say is if you paid attention, I cleared up a whole lot of mysteries today about the bumps on the walls. They're nothing more than a ponderosa tendon, Baalbek stones, Petra, giants. All right, I love you all. I don't know where else I can go from here. So what we need to do is to get, I'm going to show a clip from a channel that somebody sent me this morning. It says, these guys are really onto the academics as well. And it's Mystery History, I think is the name of it. And I watched a bit of it, and it was very, very good. And they are saying the same thing I'm saying. We're being misled. So I'm going to just play their clip, and then we'll call it a day, all right? I love you all. Okay, my friends, get ready for this. This is a channel called Mystery History, and this is exactly correct. Listen to what they have to say. All right, get ready.
Our mission over the next few videos is to demonstrate why certain individuals that are currently attempting to claim ancient ruins we so often share on our channel were the work of academia's claimed constructors are not only vastly incorrect, but that they are also being selectively ignorant. We intend to demonstrate the reasons why this explanation as to their origins is a virtual impossibility, and also prove the level of advanced knowledge needed to construct them evades even our modern civilization. Roman and Greek civilizations undoubtedly contributed tremendous amounts to modern life, be it their technologies or building techniques, architectural designs and ideas incorporated into structures that have survived millennia. However, there are many anomalous aspects of their academically claimed ruins that not only demonstrate unbelievable skill and precision, but are so advanced as to evade our own current understanding. One of these defining characteristics is undoubtedly polygonal masonry. Randomly shaped or possibly cast stones, with some, for example, found within Sacsayhuaman, reaching far into hundreds of tons, masterfully fitted together, constructed into walls and fortresses, with no utilization of mortars. These often enormous megalithic blocks, somehow placed together so perfectly that not only have they survived countless millennia, but are also earthquake-proof. These stone walls are a demonstration of what can be achieved if one had an astonishing intellect, and indeed stone building capabilities. These walls simply evade modern human explanation. No modern, or indeed any of the well-studied ancient civilizations, have ever demonstrated anything even near to the levels of refinement exhibited within these ancient walls, found all over the globe, yet ignored by academics the world over. How can certain individuals claim that academia's tale of events be accurate, yet seemingly overlook such astonishing feats of ancient engineering? How can one be expected to believe that the cultures currently claimed as having been responsible for such constructions did indeed complete such tasks, when they are, in reality, too advanced an undertaking even for our own modern civilization? As such, continuing to evade explanation. We feel that many of these individuals are merely towing a line rather than attempting to unravel that which they perceive as enigmatic and considerably controversial to their current supposed viewpoint. We feel there is no excuse for a diligent researcher to overlook these achievements when investigating such sites, or indeed attempting to unravel the secrets of our past. We also feel that if one attempts to explain away such sites, or merely overlook such features in favor of academic explanation, it is an indication of conspiratorial motives, rather than that of an honest purveyor of discoveries. I
want to make a statement right now. Now, this is fabulously portrayed, and it's exactly correct. We are being misled and defrauded by academia at this point, because for the last 15 years, I have been showing undeniable evidence, which you will see right now, including DNA and CAT scans and specimens and all of that stuff that explains every bit of this. All right, and I applaud this channel, Mystery Histories. And I left a comment up here. I would love to collaborate with them and do a discussion about these different ruins and how they were really constructed and what they're actually made out of. I didn't see anything in this video that really explains them, other than that they are just beyond our capabilities today to even do it today. But I will show you how they did it, and I'll show you probably that there was giants here that moved these things around at this particular time. It's just true. I can't see any other possibility. They did have equipment here. I know that for a fact, because down in Peru and in that area, Bolivia, there's actually tire tracks of equipment that cut blocks like this, that made these balls. So let's get into the actual evidence that exists and what academia is just totally denying. They will just not even look, because they have the opinion that there was no God, there was no Jesus Christ, or Christ was just another guy, crazy guy, and they just they have their own opinion that is forced upon the youth. And if you don't say what they tell you to say, they'll destroy your life. They'll ruin your life.